Hello, hello. I decided to come live early today so I can do my work because I found my house and it's time for me to get back to work. Especially after last night, how what was it, like an hour of just ranting, and then I wake up this morning for whatever reason, and I'm like, oh my gosh, Mercury is in Cancer, which means Mercury is conjuncting my Mars. So for the next 3 months, I'm gonna have to be careful, I guess, because I'm liable to be a little ranty. See, I don't know why. Oh gosh, 1 second. I don't even know if it'll let me. I had this whole little thumbnail all done up and everything, and for some reason, so I have to do the thumbnail twice because the chat pops up the first time and I can't click the live button. Um, and so the first time I did it, it uploaded. But the second time it didn't. So it's fine. I met you in the summer. Summer, summer. 1 second. Ariadne. Ariadne. What? We're Ariadne now? I love that name. Ariadne. Ariadne. Ew, I don't know where all that stuff came from. Excuse me. I met you in the summer. Give me one moment, please. So, if you're watching this later, I would just go ahead and skip to the part where I'm not staring at my phone because I might be staring at my phone for a second. So, I wanted to. So, I'm going to be. I haven't done an I Ching in a minute. So, I'm going to do that first and then I'm going to pull out the dice just for a little something funsies instead of doing. Instead of doing the dice first and then the cards. Come on, come on. And I think I'm just like looking at like whatever because I was gonna change the thumbnail anyway. But I guess it's not happening. It's fine. I'll put it up later. Yeah, I'm just like, what is this? I met you in the summer. Ew. I really wish I could change this thumbnail. You know, it would be cool if I could. It would be awesome if I could, but I guess I can't. Come on, come on. I guess not. Oh well. Wasted effort. It happens. I should have known it wasn't going to upload it though, or go live with it because it didn't show it when I clicked the button. But I was like, oh, maybe I'll do it anyway. Okay, well, we'll see what comes out. So yeah, I was like, I just woke up this morning and I had some dreams last night. I was like, oh my gosh. But I woke up this morning and I'm like, oh, Mercury's in Cancer. My Mars is in Cancer. Oof, Lord. So it is, well, the conjunction is loose right now because Mercury might be a degree today, but it was like fresh yesterday. Um, and so it's within 10 degrees. And then it would also be about 10 degrees from trining my sun. So I may be a little fiery here and there. I may be going through a Mercury activation in my chart right now. Mercury. I may be going through a Mars activation. And I feel like I went through a Venus activation in January. And so I've been more into that. And I'm not going to say I'm afraid of the Mars. but it's going to be an interesting time for sure because I feel like Mars has been dormant in my chart for a little bit longer than Venus. A little bit because Mars was the first to go out of necessity, and then Venus went a few years later. But now Venus is back, and Mars will be coming back. So I've been feeling like Aries is whatever. I guess now I start feeling like Cancer. Whew, we'll see. But I'll try to keep it chill. I'll try to keep it calm. I'll try to keep it. Oh, I had stopped listening to my peaceful meditations playlist, didn't I? So I'm gonna put that back on really quick, just to help me out. And it's not that it's not that I misspoke at all. I feel on my behalf from my perspective experience, but towards the end it did get a little harsh, a little rambling. I met you in the summer. Okay, so I'm gonna give this a few more shuffles to allow myself to really get into the peaceful meditations mood, and then I will pull the cards for today. Mars is gonna be in Cancer for 3 months, y'all. 3 months. That's the whole summer, and it's summer. No, and then the sun is gonna be coming into Cancer. Woof. My poor little Mars is gonna be lit up, and I might have a Mars trine right now. Let me see, because if I have a Mars trine and a Mercury conjunct Mars trine, Mercury conjunct Mars, that might be a little rough. I'll just have to be extra sure that I'm more patient with everybody. Moon is in Virgo. Do we have a grand Earth trine right now? Between Lilith, kinda. Well, no. Well, yeah, a little bit, because Uranus is still 8 degrees. Oh, the Sun is also 8 degrees, but they're like next door neighbors. So Mercury is officially 1 degree and 10 minutes into Cancer, so it is closing in on my Mars, and Mars is 11 degrees Pisces. So Mars has conjuncted my sun and is now separating from it. But I'm still in this period of a Mars trine. It's a separating trine and it's like a degree. So it's pretty close. So yeah. Mercury and Mars are both in favorable aspects to my natal Mars. So I will keep that in mind as I progress with my days because I don't want to blow up on anybody unnecessarily. Okay. Ooh, keeper. Sounds like a good enough place to start for me. To me. That's a 3. Ooh. Why not? We're gonna do a 1, 2, 3 today. I'm gonna do 3 I Chings. I'm gonna do a top and bottom. So this is top, this is bottom. I'm not gonna look at them. Oh, okay. This is top, this is bottom. Well, choices today are looking very exciting. This is top, this is bottom. Okay, all right. So I'm gonna give you the option to choose 1, 2, or 3, and I'm also gonna timestamp this because I'll be nice. Maybe I'll be nicer. Ooh, 10, 10. I'll find ways to be more nice in this time where my Mars could just blow up, I guess. I'll do IC1. I see two. I see three. Okay. So the first pile, it's only two cards, but it's gonna be in this Knight of Pentacles. I should have put on lotion before I came out. I just got out the shower, and I know I'm wearing the same shirt, but I don't do anything or go anywhere, so I change my shirt every few days. My hands may be a little dry. Ooh, ooh. No, that's just bad. Okay, so the Knight of Pentacles shining. The Shining. I should know this. Quarry. Yeah, the Shining Quarry is the first one. The second one is the Vagabond. Oh, snap. Well, the Nine of Cups just showed itself, the wish granted. So, because I picked up the cards and it was the only card left at the bottom. Um, the Vagabond, I feel like this is not as easily seen today. Let's see. Let's do a little bit of this. Let's see my messy closet. That's a little better. Vagabond, Five of Orbs, is the second one. And the third one is the Demiurge, Four of Scepters. So you'll pick one, two, or three. Don't be fooled by the card remaining at the bottom. I don't know if it affects things or not, honestly. Oh, now the devil is showing itself. So the devil, the Ace of Wands, and the Nine of Cups. This speaks to like crossroads to me. And then we have the Vagabond right here. So tired of feeling cold and lonely and desperate? Make a choice today to not keep doing that and do this instead if you want. It's your life. You get to decide what you want for you. Yes. Okay. Oh, it's only been 12 minutes. Okay, that ain't too bad. I'm gonna IC one this at 12:30. It's 12:30. So if you chose file number one, your cards are the Keeper and the Holy See. This is the Enlightened Fool and the Hierophant. And this is really interesting that it comes out under this Shining Quarry. Because, I mean, that's all about. Ooh. And then behind the Shining Quarry is the Eight of Cups. I feel like this is important. So we have the Defector, Eight of Cups, and the Shining Quarry, the Knight of Pentacles. And so this is about constant, even if slow, constant movement in the direction away from whatever this was. And this would be that devil energy. And he's heading to the Nine of Cups because this is the eight. And so the next step on his journey would be the nine, logically, right? But this devil is what's behind him. It's not this, but it's this Eight of Cups that he's leaving. And the Eight of Cups speaks to comfort. Could you see how it's a 3-2-3? That's all Cancerian energy. It's a Three of Cups, a Two of Cups, and then a Three of Cups. And the top three are a lot closer together than any of the cups underneath. And the next step in this 3-2-3 would be two more cups, right? And if you add two cups to this Eight of Cups, you would actually get 10 cups. But with this Knight of Pentacles, it's all about steady progress. And with this is a very so the Holy See in this deck speaks to the limiting and restrictive nature of spiritual or religious organization. And it's limiting or restricting because a lot of times it puts people in spaces where they kind of sort of sit over other people. And the only way to know this for ourselves is to not be under someone else, right? Is to go and experience it for ourselves. Now, the keeper here almost speaks to one who has ventured beyond but is coming back. So I guess it's like be careful if you are the keeper that has ventured beyond and come back, who is now trying to put this into words because the messenger came out yesterday, right? In the space of sunlight. Um, but I feel like it's a warning to be careful if you are this keeper, or it's a message to go beyond and become this keeper. And then you see the two elephants up there. I'm playing Animal Crossing, and I got three lions in my village, and like two of them I didn't even ask for. They just like showed up. I'm like, what? One of them I recruited to my island and I didn't want to, but they didn't let me progress further in the game until I moved him in. So I finally did it because he wouldn't just go away. And he seemed a little pretentious, but now he's cool. But the last three animals I got on my island are all elephants, and I feel like I should pull a Wisdom of Lord Ganesha card, but I'm not gonna do it. But I feel like I should. And like elephants are my new second favorite animal, so good shout out to Ganesha. Let's see. Let's do this I Ching thing. I think the keeper will be heaven, and the holy sea will be mountain, maybe if I'm recalling correctly. Maybe earth. It may be earth. Let's see. The keeper is heaven, and the holy sea is mountain. Hey, I got it right that first time. So this is mountain over heaven, though, instead of heaven over the mountain. So this is going to be interesting. Yeah. Okay. So mountain over heaven is number 26, limitation. So let's see what limitation is all about. But who will gatekeep the keepers? The church. Holding back, imposed limitation, and control forbearance. Holding back, imposed limitation, control, and forbearance. You hold great power and potential, but restraints are necessary to temper that power and keep it under control. Officers of the nation. How many times have I gotten this? Officers of the nation should not accept offers of benefit from their nation. Decline decline enrichment from those you are serving. If you forbear from accepting rewards or compensation for your service to the public, then your forbearance will bring you even greater prosperity than those offered rewards. An auspicious omen for great undertakings, advantageous for you to proceed on your endeavor. So it's advantageous for you to proceed on your endeavor. It's very auspicious. And we see this, I mean, again, advantageous for you to proceed on your endeavor. We have the Eight of Cups and the Knight of Pentacles. Any movement is good movement, but more movement is better. I said I'm gonna stop. Honestly, I feel conflicted between like these are the energies, and I should just let my Mars run free, but I'm not gonna do that. So yeah, I feel like this is it's the warning. Well, okay, either way, it's like either you go beyond the limitations of this holy sea energy to claim all of what you are getting or going after, or you are the keeper who has gone beyond and who is now returning. But if you are the returning keeper, I feel like some of those limitations may need to be self imposed. And maybe this Knight of Pentacles will then be talking about like this is an element of control when it comes to that movement, when it comes to the shining of that light. It's like a dosage, right? It's like you don't want to overdose somebody on light because then they'll be crispy and burnt. But if you can like, it's like a exposure therapy, but you're exposing them to light, right? But there's an element of and like that's kind of sort of what some of the proving is. That's kind of sort of what some of the proving is. Some of the proving is, I mean, showing that you're ready and responsible. right? With great power comes great responsibility, but you have to show that you're responsible before you get the power. It's not like, oh, you get the power first, now be responsible with it. It's like, no, if you don't show yourself responsible, you're not going to get it, right? So here we come to pile number two. Pile number two. Ooh. Okay, so this is how I'm going to do this. I'm going to do the I Ching first for all of these to get, I guess, the sort of general overview. I hope I don't forget what I was saying. And then I'm going to go through with the dice later. And so I'll timestamp it. I'll put the timestamps together, but I'm going to do all of the cards first and then all of the dice second. And then I'm going to start my work. I don't know what I'm doing when I come live nowadays. Hardly ever. And pretty soon I'll be going back to recorded videos. So it's not just me talking to myself for hours, right? I mean, it will be, but then there's less of a chance for me to get distracted and kind of sort of lost. Because I can already get lost enough as is, right? So what am I doing? Why did I pick this up? Oh yeah, the timestamp. Okay, all right. I was like, what? Why am I holding my phone? So give me one moment. Just a moment slow. Makes the end seem more than it was before. That's what woods are for those moments in the woods. I want to watch Into the Woods. I haven't seen Into the Woods in a minute. It used to be on Netflix, I think, but they took it off. Tragic. Okay, I'm going to say 22 minutes because this is definitely more than 21:45. So, pile two, if you chose this and you're skipping ahead to this timestamp, then welcome. My name is Patrick, and I am glad to be of service. Ooh, oh, wow. Okay, so we have another Shining one, which is another knight. And this Shining one comes with the Stronghold of the Veil. And so I'm going to randomly choose this card right here. Ooh, oh, the Ten of Pentacles. So if you are afraid that the Five of Pentacles Vagabond would be gnarly and you didn't choose the Five of Pentacles Vagabond because you thought it would be gnarly, well, check this. We have the Knight of Cups with the Page of Pentacles. And the message that the Page of Pentacles is bringing is this Ten of Pentacles. So, ooh, that's interesting. But at the same time, it's like if there's Five of Pentacles, if this is a veil, if this is a sheet instead of a wall, if this is a sheet instead of a wall, if this is the veil. Oh, look. Stronghold of the Veil. It's VALE, but we could pretend like it's VEIL. Why not? So if this is a veil instead of a wall, then there will be five pentacles on this side, a person on this side, and then we see the shadow on the other side. So we could also assume that there's five of pentacles on the other side as well. And then we come together. Oops. Yeah. Oof. Under this is justice. Okay. Under this vagabond is justice. So yeah, it's about a coming together. It's an equal give and take. So the five and the five would be the 10. But it's like when two fives come together, it's like the shadow, because it's like they're on opposite sides of this veil. But the shadow of the orb, it's like they affect each other, even though they're on opposite sides. And so there's a potentiality for them to both get 10, right? Because it's almost like the veil is like reflecting some things. It's like I see it in my head, but it's so hard to explain. It's like It's very like proton electron type of feeling. Protons are positively charged, electrons are negatively charged, opposite charges attract, like charges repel, right? And so, oh, and look, then we have the sun and the moon. Okay, I love it. At the top, you see the sun and the moon. Great. So it's like on one side is all the protons, and on the other side is all of the electrons. And these protons and electrons can only get so close to each other because then they'll repel, right? And so there's this balance that we found within ourselves outside of anyone else. And it may have led to us feeling a little lonely, but it was necessary. But it's like once these two come to the veil, or once they're ready to cross, it's like they're or like it's like this. One person's on this side, the other person's on this side, but when they both cross the veil, they'll be in the middle and here together, right? Instead of being out here and then in here, or it's like one in here and one out here, it's like that. And so it's like when they both cross, then the protons and electrons are able to sort of balance themselves in a way that leads to this sort of connection. But in that middle space, it's reflected outward on both sides. And so that's how they both get 10, even though they're both only bringing 5. You get me? Probably not, but that's like the kind of sort of feeling. Um, and so this is interesting because we have the Knight of Cups here, the Shining Dew, and the Shining Dew is kind of sort of like it represents the element of water. All things water. Water is fluidity. Water is flow. Water is movement. Water is a power that, like air, is associated with time, but unlike air, it has a push and a pull to it, right? It's like you have to have a lot of air to get a push and pull, like a lot, like, and that's when things are like probably falling over. But with water, I feel like you can do it with not as much because it's like you can be in a wave pool, you can be in a non-wave pool, and just start to like you know go back and forth a little bit. And the Shining Dew is looking at this Ten of Pentacles. So I guess the warning here would be to be careful of material things, especially when it comes to neglecting the matters of the heart and the matters of spirit, right? Because he's looking away from the cup at this Ten of Pentacles when it's like you could have both. Because it's like there's a way to get 10 Pentacles all on your own, but then you'll be like vagabond lonely. You'll be lonely, right? That's why this justice comes in. Ah, yes, yes. Ooh. Pinnacles majors, and then there's a third knight. The Knight of Wands is under this. So I had to keep going. So we have the Five of Orbs, the Vagabond, the Chancellor, Justice, the Six of Orbs, the Giver, and then the Warrior, the Sun. We have the Five of Pentacles, Justice, the Six of Pentacles, and then the Sun. So we have the Six of Pentacles and Justice both coming out like literally right next to each other, which speaks to an element of building something with someone else. And it's interesting because the Three of Pentacles was over here in the first pile under whatever card was under this Knight of Pentacles, right? And so it's like be careful that you don't forsake what brings you actual fulfillment for earthly, carnal, physical pleasures. But also at the same time, I feel like the message is if you continue to follow the path that brings you the most happiness, joy, and fulfillment that isn't aligned with what you should be doing spiritually, then these other pinnacles will come, right? Because it's like you have this Page of Pentacles that is bringing in this 10. And when it comes to the Suit of Pentacles, like every court, every one of the Pentacles court is down for the long haul, right? And so this is a page that knows it's destined for this 10, but also knows that it's a matter of time, it's a matter of care, and it's a matter of what is it? Growing it. I don't know what other word to say. I had another word in my mind, but I lost it. It starts with the C. But it's basically care. Like it's like a plant, you have to care for it, right? Like you're not gonna get a whole forest that grows overnight. You're not gonna get a lot of stuff that grows overnight. Even the little like things that you drop in the water soak up after a few days. Um, yeah. So let's get into this I Ching and see what it says. I'm actually going to do the page of Pentacles instead of the 10. So I believe they're the same in the I Ching, so it doesn't matter, but that's what I'm going to do. I'm deciding. I am decided. Yeah. It almost feels like there may be an opportunity to get this quicker than than sort of what is expected, right? Like a shortcut. And the shortcut is fine if it still gives you fulfillment, but if there's no happiness or joy in it, then I would say probably forgo that because it may be a distraction more so than an actual like way to get where you want to go quicker. But I mean, it's your life. You can choose this stuff if you want. So on the top, it is going to be water. And on the bottom, it is going to be mountain. So now we have water on top of the mountain, which sounds natural, actually. So I'm loving it. I like that. Bye 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 bye. Water on top of the mountain is impasse, number 39. Oof. So probably more so the message. Well, an impasse and difficulties, 39. This is John. I'll make sure I have this right. Yes, and yes. Okay. Water seeks movement while the mountain seeks to remain still. An impasse. Difficulties encountered. The sage changes inside to cultivate virtue. It is a time for inner reflection, self awareness, and personal development. Peril above, peril below. When wise counsel has been sought out, it will be auspicious to proceed with your endeavor. Adversity and troubles take. Wait. Oh, adversity and troubles. Take caution, but the ending will be well. When you hit the worst point, you cannot go at it alone. Seek out support and counsel when you are uncertain. Okay. So this could also be confessional energy, right? Like, Father, I have come to confess my sins or whatever. And that would be seeking out counsel. Remember that Justice and the Six of Pentacles are also here. And this is that energy I was kind of sort of feeling, right? It's like if you go at it alone, like you can get 10 pentacles by yourself, but it's not the same as like getting the 10 between two people. And it could be a relationship, it can be business, it could be whatever. But when it comes to two people, there's an opportunity for balance to come into a situation and an opportunity for harmony. And it is that harmonizing force that gives this sign that like leads to this sign, right? Because that's what the sun is all about. The sun is all about harmony and the way that it maintains its orbits, right? If the sun all of a sudden were to decide that it is more than what it should be, if the sun's gravity, for whatever reason, were to just suddenly spike, if its gravitational pull to begin to suddenly spike, it could potentially lead to this like sucking in of all the planets, and next thing we know, the whole planet is burned up because we're too close to the sun and it's too hot. Everything dies. And if it were to get any weaker, we'd be too far and it'd be too cold and everything would die, right? And it's like yesterday I spoke to seasons, and one of the things that maintains those seasons and one of the things that maintains cycles is the distance from which we are sort of placed. And if we were any closer or any farther, it would change the rhythm of the seasons that we found ourselves in. It said seek out wise counsel for this. So I would say, like, definitely, like, the Three of Pentacles isn't here, but the feeling is. It's like seek someone who brings you, it's like a fulfilling relationship that also leads to um, real world 3D progress, if that makes sense. If that makes any sense. Because, like, that's the Three of Pentacles, right? The Three of Pentacles is building something with someone else. A lot of times it's a task that we can't complete alone. And sometimes it's not that we can't do it alone, sometimes it's that we shouldn't do it alone. And with the Justice card and the Six of Pentacles, I feel like we shouldn't do this alone. All right, now we're going to be moving on to the next one. Honestly, I was going to pull some dice, but I don't think I will. I don't think it's necessarily necessary this time. So this will be fairly short. This will be comparatively shorter than some of my other videos. um, excuse me. I might take another nap, then wake up and do work. So I'm going to say this starts at 37:35 because that's probably what time I'll be done by. Yup, 37:35. Pound number 3. Let's see what we got here. Oh, we got two majors. Okay. I guess really quick. Well, it just popped into my head, so maybe this is for you too, Paul. I see 3. Don't forsake spirit for the earthly, is what just popped into my head. I feel like that was the last sort of little bit of IC2, but maybe it also applies to IC3 in some way. I don't know. But don't forsake the spirit for the earthly. Um, but we have the high priestess, the priestess, and the reaper. This is interesting, and this came out in the Four of Wands. So if you chose the Four of Wands, thinking that I don't know, it would be whatever, surprise! There's still yet more work for you to do, young one. The priestess and the reaper. This is surgical. That's what this is. There's an extremely surgical energy here. And it's surgical in its precision, it's surgical in its purpose, and it's also surgical in its direction. And the direction and the purpose are different. And the direction and the precision are different. The precision is like how precisely things need to be sort of cut to be transformed or let go. It's almost an energy of like diffusing a bomb. You don't want to cut the wrong cords. If you're doing heart surgery, you probably don't want to cut the wrong whatever, because if you cut the wrong whatever, you may enter, like, if you cut the wrong one, you may lose too much blood or something. I don't know how heart surgery works, but there's an element of precision, and you don't want to accidentally cut something that shouldn't be cut, right? And then the purpose is, the outcome, the reason why we're in this in the first place. And the direction is the guide. So it's like it's almost like, we are not surgeons, but we have a steady enough hand. It's like we have the most steady hand, the stablest hand, and the person who is most able to tolerate blood and guts in the group. Because if you if you put me under the knife, I might pass out. I'd be like, "Whoo, oh, that's a lot of blood! Oh my gosh!" Um, Organs, ugh. Um, but it's like, so it's almost like the direction is like you have someone in your ear that is telling you what to do, and like you don't know what to do. And I feel like that's what this high priestess backing this reaper is. It's like you know exactly what to do, where to cut, and how to do it. And with this reaper, it's for you to be precise. And even though that is a scythe, and a scythe is good for harvesting lots of things at once, I feel like there's an element of precision here. And it kind of sort of comes because we see that the light is getting, as you get closer, it gets like smaller, right? And so it's like the closer you get to whatever you're going to, the less room there is for error, the less wiggle room, the more important it's going to be for you to continue to trust and act in alignment. And then we have this Four of Wands up here, which is all about celebration. And then the Eight of Wands and the Seven of Swords, 7, 8. Excuse me, these were left on the table as I picked the cards up. So the Seven of Swords and the Eight of Wands. I feel like that's a quick reclamation energy. What are they pointing to? Now I got to pull out another card to see what this Eight of Wands is pointing to. Oops. The Eight of Wands is pointing to the Seven of Cups. So we have this eight sitting in between two sevens. The rogue, the sharpshooter, and the corruptor. It's almost like there's a cup hidden in a cup, or there's a cup hidden behind. It's like this sharpshooter's arrow. I mean, I initially saw it as like it piercing one of the cups. It's like there's a cup within a cup here. And then we have the high priest and the reaper, so this is kind of sort of mirroring that energy perfectly. Perfectly. And then we have that Four of Wands, which is all about the celebration. I don't know why I'm talking like this. Sometimes I like to speak in an accent because it's fun. Hopefully, it's not offensive to anyone, but I don't know. Sometimes I love to do it. You know what I mean? And then I love to switch it up all the time so it's not consistent at all. Because if it were consistent, who would I be? So it's like there are these seven cups, and all of the options are bogus. So sorry about it. But within one of the options is the real prize. And so it's like there's this sharpshooter who shoots one arrow at one cup. And as the arrow is flying towards the cup is like, haha, gotcha, sucker. But then it's like as the arrow pierces through the cup, it's like the real prize is indestructible, right? And the other things are like they all look the same. So you would think that they're all indestructible. But it's someone making a choice. It's like even though you're going down a specific road, it's someone making a choice that was not expected. And it wasn't expected because there was a shroud of illusion and mystery here that somebody thought was really convincing. And so it's like as the arrow is approaching that cup, the shell thinks that it's been chosen, but as the arrow begins to pierce through the shell, then it's like, oh no, and then it like hits the prize. And since the prize is indestructible, it's like it pushes the prize out of the other side of the shell, and then the shell falls apart. And then you go and you claim your cup, right? And I guess that's that Seven of Swords type of feeling because it's almost like it was hiding in plain sight, but you didn't see it for what it was. It couldn't be seen for what it was. It had to be felt. The moon rules this card. And I've been feeling the moon as like, and that it's the high priestess. That's actually her energy. I've been feeling it as the moon, but it's actually her energy, I guess. It's like even if you can't see it, you can still feel it. And so it's like there was something that someone couldn't see, but they could feel it. And following that feeling is what led to this sort of like the ability to follow the feeling and your intuition at the same time is what leads to the precision of this surgical operation procedure, right? You don't want a botched surgery, right? So let's get into this I Ching and see what this is about. This actually isn't bad, but I mean, I feel like none of these are necessarily bad. They're all kind of sort of beautiful in their own way, you know? We're all beautiful in our own way. So we got the High Priestess and the Reaper. Ooh, this is wind over water. Wind, water, heart. That was the order of the elements, right? Earth, fire, wind, water, heart. Wind, water, heart. With your powers combined, I am Captain Planet. Captain Planet, he's a hero. Gonna take the living down to zero. This is number 59, Make Waves. So we went from limitation to impasse, and now we're at making waves. So if you chose this one and you know what you need to do, you need to do it. The time for hesitation is over. Like you're the one with the steadiest hand in the group and the one that is most accustomed or most equipped to handle the situation because it's gonna be messy and you're the one that's best able to handle the mess. So sorry you gotta clean it up, but you got this. You're so well suited for it, and if you weren't, you wouldn't be in this position, so don't be afraid now. This is making waves and dispersal. It's fun. Make offerings to the divine and build temples to show your devotion. A king must align with divinity to maintain the kingdom. A very important task is at hand, and to make waves, you will be the driver of the forces. When there is disagreement, you can bring unity by conceiving of a new idea and announcing an innovative proclamation that does not include any of the old ideas from current parties. That way, neither party feels favored or disfavored. The announcement can serve as a rallying cry for harmony. The next course of action for the matter at hand is your chosen action. Thoughts beget movement. The next course of action, or what did it say? The next task or whatever? Yeah, the next course of action for the matter at hand is your chosen action. So with this Seven of Cups, you're gonna have to choose. And the potential, so it's like this Four of Wands is hidden within one of these Seven Cups. And it was hidden in a way that you wouldn't necessarily get it. And you gotta be careful the archers that you have in your ranks because it's almost like, and I feel like this is more in the past, but I'll say it anyway. It's almost like you have a double agent in your ranks, right? It's like you're a king with this army or whatever, and it's like you have an archer who's actually a spy from a rival kingdom who has come to sort of undermine the kingdom, but it's like the kingdom is so stable. There's a very King of Cups vibe, and it's King of Cups because, like it said, it's about honoring and communing with divinity. And the King of Cups is the king most suited to do that through, the suit of cups. So it's like the only way to really get him to fall would be there's like a false prophet type of energy here. Because it's like it's highlighting the wrong thing. And if this king, that's why this high priestess is here. at the same time. And that's why I said it's going to be important to follow the feeling and your intuition, because it's more than just the feeling. Because feelings can be twisted, misdirected, and misguided, right? And that's because there are times when we feel a feeling and we try to put a face to the feeling. And if we put the wrong face to the feeling, we don't allow ourselves to see that sometimes. And, and I guess I mean, this is about the Four of Wands, and I talk about whatever on this channel now. The other night, I was thinking about the concept of like a false twin flame. And I'm like, I get it, but like, is that even real? Because at the end of the day, it's like, if somebody doesn't love you, they don't love you. It's not fake love, it's just not love. It's only fake because you think that it's something that it isn't, right? And it's like either it is or it isn't. And I guess I understand like the falsity of it, but it's like it's not fake if I mean it is fake, but it's not like the thing's fault that you were convinced, right? That's like if I don't know, somebody looked at like if I hold this up, right, and you think that this is real leather, like it's not my fault if you think this is leather. It's made to look like it, and it might be for. I don't think it is, but it might be for. I don't know. This is a bad example. This is a bad example. But in my mind, I'm like, I feel like false twin flame is such a misnomer because, and then you look at a lot of signs of what a false twin is, but then you look at what a lot of people call a twin flame. Like I was on Twitter and somebody was like, I was talking to my guys today and they said that these are the signs coming into union with their twin flames. And somebody was like, what's a twin? A few people in the thread were like, what's a twin flame? And somebody was like, a twin flame is a person who comes into your life and they reflect the darkest parts of you for you to heal. And I'm like, that sounds like a dark mirror. That sounds like a karmic flame more than anything to me. And it's always seemed that way to me. And it's like, it's very this energy. It's like I get it, I guess. I get it in the sense that like it's a phase that is necessary for some people on their journey of evolution when it comes to the moment of self-love, and for the people who sort of break out of those situations, I applaud y'all, because I mean regardless of how long you were sort of stuck in it, to reach the point where you say, you know what, even if this is the be all end all for me, I'm going to walk away. That is actually beautiful. I mean, to be stuck in that mess in the first place is a little mind blowing to me, but it is like to reach that point where you walk away from someone that you believe is everything to you. I'm like, I applaud you. And maybe that's the purpose behind it, right? But in my mind, it's just like, to me, it doesn't make sense. And I've never bought into that part of the story. It's like I can get some kind of mirroring, and then someone was like, your twin is like the person that's exactly like you, and I guess I get it on some levels. But it also depends on sort of like who you are and what you need, right? For some people to do their best work and for some people to be the most motivated, they don't need someone that's exactly like them. For some people, they do. And some people work better when they're in more completely reflective spaces. And other people work better when there's a little bit of a difference. And again, it depends on kind of sort of the work that you're going to do. And it depends on who you are and how you're motivated, right? Like for me, a little bit of challenge is what's going to push me, because if I get too complacent, I'm going to be stuck. And if I meet somebody exactly like me, we'd probably never do anything. And so it's like it's different for everybody. And that's why I kind of sort of, I've always felt it as more of a compliment. It's someone who compliments you instead of someone who like is you exactly. And again, it's different for different people, because different people need different things, and different people are gonna do different things, and different people are at different but it's all related to the work that we're going to do, right? And so anyway, there's this energy of a false something. And it's like, well, if you were led by your intuition as much as you were your feelings, then you would have reached this unmasking moment sooner, right? It's like if we're watching an episode of Scooby Doo where something goes down and they go and they talk to somebody, and instead of them going the whole episode of being chased around and then capturing the monster and then unmasking him and being like, oh my gosh, it was literally the first person that we saw that had the most motive out of everybody. It's like, well, if they would have stopped and thought for a second, they'd be like, you know what? You know who has the most motive here? And not only the most motive, you know who has the most access here? And not only the most access, you know who also has the most knowledge and awareness and understanding of like local traditions or whatever? It's this one person. This one person has everything. And so let's go look and see what's in their garage. And then in their garage, you see the monster costume, you see the animatronics, you see everything. And you're like, okay, like we just saved ourselves an entire episode of being chased and of running around by stopping for a moment and allowing ourselves to hone in on things rather than just kind of sort of running around cutting blindly because it's like you're gonna have to heal from that. You're gonna have to heal from that later. So be careful with the knife. Right? It is important for us to sort of excise the things that need to be excised. And it's important for us to cut out the things that need to be cut out. But also at the same time, we're gonna have to heal from it later. So don't just go cutting everything. You're like, oh, if I cut everything out, eventually I'll get the right thing. And it's like, okay, but now it's gonna take you like 10 times as long to heal, which is fine because it's different for everybody. So there isn't one right way to do this for everyone, but there are better ways to do it than others. And one of the better ways to do it is to, of course, be led by, be spirit led. Like it's the king that seeks, that communes with the divine. Like when you commune with the divine, everything is blessed. And even if it isn't, even if it looks a little ugly, the journey itself is still blessed because the reward that you get at the end of the most difficult quest is going to be the one that you need sometimes in your most dire of moments or the one that leads to the most progression. But yeah, it's like I don't know, it's like and then like I watched the video like signs of a false twin flame. And it's like these are signs of a person who obviously does not love you. Signs of a real twin flame, someone who loves you. Signs of a false twin flame, someone who does not love you, but you are convinced that maybe with enough time and fixing that someday they might, maybe, or something. I don't know. I don't get it. I'm sorry. I don't mean to laugh, but it blows my mind. And then there are people who are so virally, what is that? Not virally. What's the word? Oh, it starts with a V, but I can't remember. It like popped into my mind and then it slipped out just as quick. But there are people who are so upset with the whole journey in general. And it's like I understand it from the point of this is what I was told to believe this was. But from the point of like what you should know and what you should feel, you should have known that this wasn't it. And some things that are like blatantly not it. And again, I don't want to cast judgment on anybody because it's all relative. But then at the same time, it's like you go through something. It's see that's why this intuition is just as important as the feelings, right? The moon is feelings, emotions, and intuition. It's both because then it's like you exit one thing and then you're always looking for something to project that onto, and instead of allowing yourself to be open to receiving who it actually is, right? It's like, okay, it's this person because we have the most blah 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 whatever. And then that doesn't work out. You walk away from that person, and then you're like, oh, it's actually this person because that was a lot better. And it's like with the concept, In my mind, another thing that doesn't make sense is like your twin flame, who is your person that is your person that is your person, is the one that you've literally known all of your life, or it's one that you've already met. And it's like the world is so big, the journey is so vast and endless and unknown that to meet the person from the very beginning, it's like most high school relationships don't work out. Most of them don't. There are a few people who will be high school sweethearts for life, and it works for them because that's their path. But for most people, it doesn't work out. And again, it's like we're trying to focus this in a direction that it's not naturally being focused in. And so it's like, is it fake because you deceived yourself? Like, whose fault is it really? I don't know. I don't get it. I do, but I don't. I get it. I understand why people fall into it, but I don't. Because, like, for me, it's like I don't get it. Like, I guess I just don't have the patience with people, honestly. And like, there are things that I can forgive, and there are things that I can understand, but there are also things that I like. I always keep in my mind, like, is this something that I can excuse given the worst case scenario for that person? And if it is, then I give it a little bit more time. And if it's not, I just walk away. Because it's like at the end of the day, like I ain't gonna allow myself to be treated any kind of way. Even when I didn't have the self love that I have now, I've never been the type of person to allow people to treat me any kind of way. And I'd rather be by myself alone and friendless than be with people that I don't necessarily care for. Because in my mind, it's worse for me to be with people like that than it is for me to be alone. And that's something that I've always known about myself. It's something I've kind of inherited in some ways. So thankful for that. But yeah, anyway, it's like there's a real option hidden inside of one that might not have been. And if you're the type of person that needs for everything else to fall away before you ever get to the point that you're supposed to get to, you might miss it, especially if it's hiding in the shell of something else, right? And if you're the type of person that if it's not hiding in something else, you may be waiting for a while. If you're just randomly selecting which cup, it may be the last one you pick. It could be the first one. It might be the last one. Maybe there's an element of luck here. Who knows? But yeah, I mean, the high priestess and the reaper. Like, don't go in blind. It's like go in blind, but don't go in blind. It's like, you put on the blindfold so that you're not deceived by appearances. And so you're blind in that sense, but you're not blind in the sense that your other sense is heightened and they compensate for that. You may have to go in with a blindfold and with earplugs because this is like the quiet place and bird box all in one. Like you can be deceived by an appearances and you can be deceived by a voice. But at the core, you can't be deceived by feelings. But again, it's people's tendency to project things onto those feelings that gets them in trouble. And that's why the intuition is also important, right? That's why the heart isn't the only organ that we have. So you got to use the other senses as well. But yeah, that's where I'm going to shut this down, I guess. This was interesting. This was fun. I'm gonna pull a final message out of these cards and see where we end this off because I love pulling a final card before I put the cards back, just to give the deck an opportunity to clear up anything that needs to be cleared up or to say whatever needs to be said, right? Yeah, but with that Eight of Wands, I mean, last night I did say we're kind of sort of moving from divine intervention to divine understanding, and with that I Ching, I feel like that's definitely more of a divine understanding because it's like it's It's kind of sort of like talking to a person, right? The more you talk to a person, the more you get to know that person, and the better you are able to kind of sort of like evaluate how they would feel about a certain situation. You're able to like project them in a situation even if they're not there when you really get to know a person. And it's kind of sort of the same for spirit. And in that way, that's kind of what our discernment is based upon. Um, and I say discernment as more of a first reaction before that conversation with spirit happens, right? And then if the conversation with spirit happens later, then that's when you get confirmation or you get further insight. But it's almost like, or maybe instead of discernment, like your first impression. That's what your first impression of a situation is based off of. It's your relationship with spirit. But I would never go based solely off of first impressions because, again, appearances can be deceiving. Um, oh, snap. When did this happen? Okay, well, we got 3 cards at the top of the deck. And I don't even know when they went. I don't even know when these flipped over. I just looked down and I had 3 face-up cards at the top of the deck. Um, and they were all just sitting at the top together. Everything else is still face down. So, hey. The 9 of Cups, Ace of Swords, and the Devil in reverse. Oh, they're all in reverse. 9 of Cups in reverse, Ace of Swords in reverse, Devil in reverse. That's the whole deck was upside down, so that's why. And I feel like that's just the energy, like I was kind of sort of just saying about the whole false twin flame thing. That's the energy of like realizing that what you sort of dreamed for and wished for once before was keeping you bound and tied to something. And that's one of the ways that devil energy is best able to operate. And then, so I pulled a card randomly from the middle and I got the Magician upright because I flipped the deck upright. And then with the Page of Swords, the Page of Wands, Stronghold of the Flame, this is the message that she brought. Here's the wand. And there it is. There's the wand. It's time to do something with it. And the tale resumes. Every time I see that little salamander now, it's like the tale resumes. It was paused for a second, but now it's time to hit play. You've realized whatever you need to realize. Hopefully, you've cut out whatever you needed to cut out. And sometimes the only way to heal from a situation is to put distance between the situation and you, right? If someone is standing on one side of the door screaming at you, it's like you could sit with your back to the door crying, or it's like you can put distance between you and the door, put in your headphones, or do something else and move on. Because at one point it's like, unless it's a concern, unless they're like physical concerns, if it's all mental and emotional, like what's the point of putting yourself on the other side of the door to continue to subject yourself to all of that anyway? Like, you might as well go back out there. Now, I'm not telling anybody to go back out there, and I guess I need to be careful because Mercury is going to be conjuncting my Mars for the next few, I don't know how long. So if I seem a little extra cold, even like my Mars is in Cancer though. So it's like I still like feel for people. Like I understand it, but at the same time I'm like, well, what did you expect? Like you should have known better. You should have felt better. Like you knew it didn't feel right. And I don't want to like I feel like that's very blamey. And I'm not blaming anybody. Like I said, like for anyone who exits a situation like that, like knowing how people can be, I'm like blown away and amazed at your strength to walk away from something like that you're told is whatever. And so in some ways, that speaks to maybe a strength that I don't even have. Maybe I wouldn't be strong enough to enter that situation and then leave. And so that's why I'm like, ew. Oh snap. Okay, so the cards that just fell out of the deck. Oh, all right. Oh, okay. I've been seeing you a lot. The Lovers and the Two of Cups. I promise they just fell out of the deck, y'all. I ain't just plucked these. The Lovers and the Two of Cups. And you see how they're both being poured into from the same fountain? This is much, much, much different than that temperance energy of you pouring all of what's in your cup into somebody else's cup. That never pours back into you. Like, it's not that. Like, they're both being poured into. And then we have this lover's energy here. Love it. And it's funny because you see the phoenix and the dragon in this card. The what was it? I know it was the nine of cups in reverse, ace of swords in reverse, and the devil in reverse just came out. And in the devil, the phoenix and the dragon are tied together, but in this card, they're free. So like this is not restrictive, but with the lovers, it has to be something that we choose. Bottom of the deck is the Archangel Commander, King of Swords. I've been seeing him a lot. He kind of sort of took a break for a minute, low key, but now he's back apparently. So, ooh, I love that when they just slide apart like that. And that's where I'm going to end this. You know, I guess I was talking about that's what devil energy does. It kind of sort of it preys on our 11122. It preys on our natural sort of weaknesses, and it knows what we want. I feel like devil energy knows what we think we want, but divine energy knows what we actually want. And if we're caught up in what we think we want, it's going to be a lot easier for us to be fooled by that. Ooh, devil imagery is what popped into my mind. So I guess devil imagery would be like the illusions, right? It'd be a lot easier for us to fall for that if we fall more into what we think we want. But when we begin to trust and develop our relationship with spirit, when we begin to go in directions that we may not necessarily feel comfortable or ready for, then we discover the things that we actually want, right? And so there's a lot of like, oh, you said you want this, you think you want this, well, here it is, will you take it? And it's like, I don't know, if we're still doing that, I don't want to say that there's no hope. I may just have to not go live for like 3 months. Oh, I'm just like, maybe I'll just keep saying Mercury is conjuncting my Mars in Cancer right now. So if I come off a little harsh, blame the stars. um, but you know what? I'm gonna look at this season for what it is, and I'm gonna appreciate it. Like I think my Mars is about to be awakened, so you know. And I guess that eclipse will be happening fairly close to my Mars, within 10 degrees of my Mars at the very least, right? So it's a loose-ish conjunction. Um, but there was also the eclipse in January, might have happened like right before or right after I had a Venus conjunction, maybe. And maybe that's what set me on the cycle of that increased Venus awakening because it was already kind of sort of waking up, but it was like hitting the snooze button. And now Venus was like, nah, we up. And so I guess my Mars is about to be up too. So I'll learn as I go along. I may be, I don't know. My sun is in the 11th house, which astrologically can mean that I'm a people pleaser. And honestly, if lockdown and quarantine has taught me anything, it's that I'm done pleasing people. I'm done. I've pleased people my whole life. My people pleasing days are over. And so if my Mars needs to wake up and hey, maybe it's time to get up. Maybe baby, it's time to go. Because people pleasing is not the way anymore. But yeah, so I guess ultimately at the end of the day, work on your relationship with Spirit. As always, I feel like that's everything I'll say. But it's kind of, I mean, it's like when you have that And it's honestly that when you have that level of connection, you don't really need anything else. You don't need anything outside of you to highlight things that you already know, to show you things that you already feel, or to confirm the directions that you're being led to when you already know that those are the directions that you're going in. And so it's not that the outside world becomes sort of irrelevant, but you can change your relationship with it when you can use it for more than just confirmation or information, right? Because it's like there's this element of like with the page of wands bringing out the magician, and that's called the kings and queens, the magicians, right? There's like we'll call them the magicians. In order for the page to reach that level, it's like you can't be continuously learning and cleaning up messes. Like you eventually reach the point where you need to begin to practice something, because practice makes perfect, right? But if you're always learning and never practicing, it's like theory is one thing, sure, but it's something that is so specific that if you don't begin to do it, or at least see what works for you and what really works for you, not just what like surface level works for you, because again, outside appearances can be deceiving, but it's with actual practice. North Node and Gemini, magician, the lovers, and the hermit. Well, it's more the lovers. So the lovers and the magician rather than the hermit and the magician, because it's Gemini and then it goes back to Mercury. So it's the lovers and the magician, which is all about deciding to do something and then doing it. South Node in Sagittarius, that's South Node in Temperance, and then the Wheel of Fortune. If you're waiting, South Node is in Sagittarius. That means that's what we're not supposed to be doing right now. If you are waiting, if you're coming up with theories, if you're doing all of that stuff, it's like if you're doing all of the research and then expecting for the wheel to move, that's not going to happen, because the South Node is in Temperance right now. And the wheel, Jupiter, is in retrograde. So it's not moving itself. It's time to make a decision, make a choice with the lovers, and then to actually do it with that magician energy backing it, because the wheel isn't turning itself anymore. It's retrograde. Jupiter's retrograde. And even if Jupiter wasn't retrograde, it's still in Capricorn. And even if Jupiter wasn't in Capricorn, the South Node is in Temperance right now. So the time for just waiting for things to get better and the time for theory and philosophy is like over. That's not going to work right now. Just like holding on to super rigid structures when the South Node was in Capricorn isn't going to work right now. Like, it didn't work then. It's time to act. It's time to do. North Node in Cancer was us. That's when That's when I woke up, at least, or it was like right before the North Node went into Cancer, so it would have been North Node Leo, which is interesting because when the North Node was in Leo, I did all of my Leo things, which I guess actually led me to the point that I'm in now more so than anything, because it's all been progressive, and that's how it works. It's all progressive. And when you operate in the season as the season, you get what you're supposed to get out of that part of the cycle moving forward. Right? Seasons and cycles. Maybe that's what I'll title the thing from last night. Seasons and cycles. Um, what was I saying? Here I go ranting again, but I feel like I'm gonna say it because sometimes you gotta say it. It's like with that North Node being in Cancer, we were supposed to be getting closer to spirit. North Node in Cancer, South Node in Capricorn. North Node and the emotions, North Node and the substance, South Node and the face and the appearance and the structure. And I guess now we see why that North Node Cancer was so important, because look at the world. North Node in Cancer was an opportunity to create a home within yourself. And it was also an opportunity to invite the spark, to invite a spark from your soul to be the fire in the hearth that keeps that home warm in the space of the winter, and the winter being now, even though we're about to go into the summer, because it looks like everything on the outside is kind of sort of decaying, right? But what comes after the winter is a brand new spring, and it's an opportunity to do things in a completely different way, because there will be some things that don't survive the winter, and the things that weren't prepared to survive the winter won't survive the winter, and the things that weren't meant to survive the winter won't survive. It's almost like there's a sneaky little something that planted these seeds of hope when things were seemingly dark. And now, with the coming of the new spring, is this opportunity for us to see things sprout that we never would have expected. And the seeds were planted long ago. They've just been under the ground this whole time, so you didn't see them. But when this new spring, and maybe spring will come in the summer, right? Probably. I mean, places in the world are starting to open back up slowly, more and more and more places, right? So I guess it makes sense. But yeah, that North Node in Cancer was all about establishing a home within the self. Because then after that, everything Capricorn fell apart. So if you were hanging on to Capricorn, it fell apart, and if you were hanging on to Capricorn, you might have fallen apart a little bit, maybe. Or but like if you had the home within self, I feel like that speaks to an ability to be able to manage, right? Like the buildings erected in earthquake zones, it's a fluidity that you have with the earth, so that you're not super rigid and you fall apart and snap. But now with North Node and Gemini, it's time to begin to act from that home base, right? We've established home base. Hopefully, we've established home base when the North Node was in Cancer. And it's now time for us to go out and to do stuff with that lovers, or with the magician, lovers backed by the magician energy. And I've never done it like that, which is really interesting. So yeah, Sagittarius would be temperance backed by the wheel of fortune. I'm a Pisces. What would that be? The moon backed by the hanged man. That's pretty much me. Aries would just straight up be no. Aries would be the emperor backed by the tower. Because I think Mars is the tower. Taurus would be the Hierophant backed by the Empress. Gemini is the lovers backed by the magician. Cancer is the chariot backed by the high priestess. I can see it. Okay, all right. All right. The high priestess backing helped me see what Cancer cardinal energy is all about. Um, Leo would be strength backed by the sun, or would it be the sun backed by strength? I think it would be strength backed by the sun, Leo. Virgo would be the hermit backed by the magician, right? So if you're just hermiting and you're not doing anything with that awakening knowledge awareness, then you're only doing half of what the hermit is supposed to do, because it's backed by the magician. Both the hermit and the lovers are backed by the magician. So Mercury's like, okay, now what are you gonna do? Um, and then Libra would be justice backed by the Empress. Scorpio would be death backed by the Tower, which is perfect Scorpio energy, right? Sagittarius again would be temperance backed by the wheel of fortune. Capricorn would be the devil backed by the world. Aquarius would be the star backed by the world. And so it's interesting that, and it's also interesting, like with the magician, you have the lovers and then you have the hermit, which is like two seemingly completely different energies, right? And then with Saturn, you have the devil and you have the star, which is like two seemingly different energies. Um, and then I already did Aquarius because that's the star backed by the world. And Pisces would be the moon, backed by. Okay, well, it would be the moon backed by the high priestess, traditionally. But it's the moon backed by the hangman in a more sort of like updated sense, with the hangman being Neptunian energy. And which one would be Uranus? Judgment? Maybe? Or the Fool? Probably the Fool. I think the Fool would be Uranus. So Aquarius would be the star backed by the Fool. Yeah, that's perfect Aquarian energy. The star backed by the Fool. The star in the sense that it is like unique and one of a kind and out of this world. And the Fool, as in like it's actually going to make it happen, even though it looks like it may be kind of crazy. It's going to make it happen. Um, and then Scorpio, Pluto would be Judgment, so that would be death backed by judgment. And that makes sense. I see that. I'm assuming judgment would be Pluto. Because so judgment is fire, the hangman is water, Neptune. Yeah, and there's only three. There's three. Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. The fool is air. Um, judgment is fire, and the hangman is water. Oops. Hold on, I'm going through this that because it's earth, not ew. Gross. Ugh. I'm sorry, but that's disgusting. The temperatures have been fluctuating back here. It's going from warm to cool. Some days my body wants to remember that I have allergies. Some days my body is fine. And I'm just like, okay. All right, body. So actually, there may be a quicker way to do this. Maybe. Nope, not here. Okay, so yeah. I'm going to go through the book real quick. Take a look in my book. Reading Rainbow. I can fly twice as high. I don't know the words. But that's interesting. I don't think Earth rules anything. There are 22 majors. Yeah, it doesn't. Because there are 12 zodiac signs, so that would leave 10. 7 planets, that would leave 3, and then you have water, air, and fire. Water, air, and fire, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto. So Pluto would be judgment. Uranus would be the fool, and Neptune would be the hangman. But I feel like there's something missing. There should be a fourth element, right? And then another planet to take that place. Earth. Earth is Earth. But Earth isn't in the majors. Because Earth is the one planet that we don't account for in astrology. Because we live on it. Earth is the one element that is not assigned to a major. But there's not a card there. Oh, maybe free will. Free will would be the major. The element would be Earth, and the planet would be Earth. I mean, the title of the card wouldn't be free will, but the theme would be free will. And again, that speaks to our ability to, like from yesterday, it speaks to our ability to disregard the seasons and the cycles that we find ourselves in as people. Um, Especially when it comes to like technology and things like that. You know, people are good at making places habitable for them and then living there. So in some places, in some cases, there's a certain amount of acclimation that has to be done, but at the same time, it's about us like terraforming, basically. Um, so it can be parasitic in excess, but in balance, it's actually kind of beautiful, sorta. It is, but you know, we tend to excess. rather than moderation or balance. A lot of us. So I mean, look at me. Like I'm big and flabby. I'm a little less flabby. It's still as big. Oh, a little less big. A little less flabby, a little less big, a little less excess. A lot of less excess actually. Like my body doesn't even tolerate excess the way that it used to tolerate excess. And sometimes it can be frustrating if I want to just eat. But it is what it is. And I guess like I am healthier now, so no complaints. But yeah, I actually love that. I actually really like that. So we're in a lovers backed by the magician energy right now. South node is temperance backed by the wheel of fortune. The time for waiting is over. The time for action is now. We're going to be coming into Cancer season, which is again, it's the chariot backed by the high priestess. So it's almost like, and that's kind of sort of what I was alluding to in some light last night, because there's almost this energy of like Mercury, Gemini is the, what do they call it? It's like plug and chug. It's, oh, what was the word? And Dr. Tao got so mad at our class for not knowing what it was, and I was just laughing. It's hilarious to me whenever a professor calls the entire class dumb, because I'm just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe they're really saying this right now. I just lose it. I laugh. Other people get upset, understandably. But he was like, if I go to juniors and any other engineering major, they'd be able to tell me exactly what this is, just like that. I can't believe our field has fallen so far that none of our juniors know what this is. And even if I do know, I'm not going to say anything because I'm enjoying it. It's funny to me. I'm sorry. But what is that word? Trial and error. That's what I was looking for. So Gemini is very like trial and error energy. So I think that's why it's like we're gonna learn by doing right now. And then when we come into this chariot backed by the high priestess energy, it's gonna be important for us to at least have a little bit of a direction and to at least know a little bit of what works for us, what doesn't work for us. Right. And so we're gonna come into like it's an 18-month cycle. And so we just entered Gemini now. And so in 12 months, we're gonna come back to another Gemini season where the North Node is still in Gemini, and we're gonna be in the same space. And it's like, do we want to potentially waste an entire 12-month cycle not doing the things that we need to begin doing now? And so I guess that would mean in Sagittarius season, the nodes will shift into Taurus and Scorpio, roughly. Sagittarius season. That'll be a North Node in Taurus. That will be the perfect time to really begin building our lives. For those of us who have still yet to build our lives, aka me and my parents' house in this room. I've lived in rooms for like my whole life. And I'm excited to like live in, I guess, because so the apartment I was in, I basically lived in that room too. I've lived in rooms my whole life. It'd be exciting to at least have an apartment where I have two rooms, right? Or three. My room, the living room, the kitchen, and then the bathroom in my room or in some room, right? But yeah, I've lived in rooms my whole life. I'm ready for like a house. And like the apartment I had, it was a 4-person apartment, individual bedrooms, common areas shared, but I lived with strangers. So I wouldn't necessarily count that as like, I basically lived in a room there, especially with some of the roommates I had. It was just like more hassle than it was worth. So I just stayed in my room. So I'm like, I'm not dealing with you. I'm not dealing with you. Um, some people are just so low vibrational. I'm like, oh my gosh, why are you so low vibe? And it's not low vibe in like a judgmental way. It's low vibe in a way that like they're always trying to cause trouble, always trying to cause drama, always trying to stir something up. And I'm just like, I'd rather just be in my room, minding my business with my peace. And if you get upset, hey, that's on you. But I'm not changing my life. Like you ain't paying my rent, you ain't paying my bills, you ain't feeding me, you ain't doing nothing for me, then you just gonna be upset. And you're not gonna be pulling me into whatever you need to do to vent your frustration with your own life. Like you go find another mirror because it ain't happening with me. I kind of sort of love these little ranty bits at the end. Um, but yeah, like it would be like we can take advantage of the seasons for the now, right? Like we have a whole season to learn what the season is going to be about and then to begin to operate in it before we move into the next one instead of doing this thing where it's like, and that's how astrology is basically built. It's more observational than anything, right? Because it at the end of the day it's a science. All sciences are more observational than anything. They're really passive. They're like, let's sit back and let's watch how things unfold. It's like, let's set up the experiment. Sure, whatever. In astrology, we don't position the stars. So we're not even setting up the experiments. But in science, it's like, let's set up the experiment and then observe what happens. And then we will make a declaration of how things worked based on what happens enough times and the conditions at which they happen, right? And that's basically what astrology is. And I mean, it's a part of the cycle of observation where we actually get to experiment and do something, right? So let's do that instead of just like if we're like South Node is in temperance right now. Like now is not the time for temperance. Maybe the time for temperance was, before the South Node entered Sagittarius, and the time for temperance might be after the South Node exits Sagittarius. But for the now, like the time for temperance is over. The time for doing is now. And when we're learning and experimenting in this specific Gemini season within the larger umbrella of this Gemini North Node, after this, we're going to be coming into that chariot, right? And the thing about the chariot is the chariot has everything lined up. It has both horses on the same page and it's making forward movement. So anything that you need to sort of reconcile, anything that you need to get on the same page as, anything that you feel that you need to learn or pick up to do better or be better, like do it now. Because when we come into chariot season, that's when things begin to move. Like the eclipse is happening when we enter chariot season. So it's like at the moment that eclipse happens, boom, like we should be ready to do something, ready to go somewhere, ready for something. And that's why I was like, I wouldn't sort of push off or delay any healing until that eclipse because it's like, it can bring you that, but it also has the opportunity to do so much more. It's like it has an opportunity to bring us sort of like what we're ready for and what we need. And so it's like, why not get ready in the ways that we can get ready? It's like, I don't know. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's just my line of thought. But I'm going to really end this here now. It's time to be making choices and it's time to be doing stuff. It's time to be less indecisive and it's time to be moving in the directions that spirit is telling us to move in. And again, that relationship that had a whole 18-month cycle to flourish since November 2018 when the node shifted into Cancer. Now it's time to start doing stuff with the lovers. It's time to start making decisions. And it's like the things that we're going to be doing have the opportunity to affect and impact us for the rest of our lives. And there's a lot of energy in Gemini right now. Like this isn't just the sun in Gemini season where, the sun is the only thing in Gemini besides the moon when the sun is new. And maybe Mercury, because Mercury is always within one sign of the planet. And whenever it gets too far from the sun, it retrogrades back, right? Or Venus. I mean, Venus is in Gemini now, but Venus might be like what at the most. I don't know if it's one or two signs. I can't remember. Um, but anyway, you know, I mean, I can talk all day long, and I feel like the people who are gonna do stuff are probably already doing stuff because they may already be listening. But this is part of the stuff, at least for me, at least for now, that I need to be doing. So I guess that's why I keep doing this. So I will catch y'all later. I might get some lunch. I might take a nap, a little nap, and then get some lunch and then get to work because it's time to move today. Especially after last night, when I'm like, if y'all ain't moving on the things that y'all need to move, that y'all know y'all need to move on, then don't be surprised when you don't get no rewards in reward season. Talking to myself. So I'm gonna do this work that I need to do because again, like I ain't on here to just talk and not do nothing. Like everything I'm talking about, I'm doing because like I want my rewards too. Hello, shoot, I'm ready. I'm ready to go. Like I said, I'm tired of like one room living. Even though like there's a whole house here, but my space is this room. Like my name ain't on this mortgage. This ain't my house, and this room technically ain't my room. Because if my parents were like, "All right, get out," I wouldn't be able to be like, "Oh, well, my name is on this mortgage, so y'all ain't like I ain't going nowhere." Like, no, I would be able to be removed from this because this is not my property. So I'm saying like, well, I guess I did have that apartment, so my name was on that lease. Um, but anyway, I'm actually going to end this now. I hope that you're doing whatever you need to be doing to get to wherever you need to be going or wherever you want to go, right? And I hope you're having a good time while you do it. I hope you're having the time that you want to have while you're doing or not doing the things that you know you should or want to be doing or not doing. And I'll catch y'all next time I catch y'all.